Your fiancée put something in your son's food. The scream sliced through the restaurant like a knife. Every head turned, every fork dropped. Marcus Reynolds looked up just in time to see his 7-year-old son slide from his chair, foam spilling from his lips, his small body convulsing on the cold marble floor. "Dylan!" Marcus lunged. His knees hit the ground. He grabbed his son's shaking body. The boy's eyes had rolled back completely. His skin was turning blue. 3 feet away, Victoria Chase stood frozen. Her face was white. Her hands trembled. But she didn't move to help. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just watched. And in that moment, Marcus knew. Before we continue this powerful story, please subscribe to our channel and follow Dylan's journey to the very end. Comment below with the city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels around the world. The scream ripped through the Sterling house like a gunshot. Your fiancé put something in your son's food. Every fork stopped midair. Every conversation died. Every head turned toward table 12. Marcus Reynolds looked up from his phone. His brain couldn't process the words. What did you just say? The waitress stood 3 feet away, her finger pointed directly at Victoria Chase. Her name tag read Maya. Her hand shook violently, but her voice did not waver. I saw her, Maya said. I saw her put something in your son's plate. I watched her do it. Victoria's champagne glass slipped from her fingers. It shattered against the marble floor, but she didn't flinch. Her face went white. Pure white. Like someone had drained all the blood from her body in a single instant. That's insane, Victoria said. Marcus, this woman is clearly mentally unstable. She's probably looking for a lawsuit. But Marcus wasn't looking at Victoria anymore. He was looking at Dylan. His 7-year-old son had stopped eating. The fork hung limply in his small hand. His face had gone pale, and his other hand pressed hard against his stomach. Dad, Dylan whispered. My tummy feels weird. Marcus felt his heart stop. Dylan, what do you mean weird? I don't know. It hurts. It really hurts. Victoria reached across the table and grabbed Marcus's arm. Her nails dug into his skin. He's fine. Children always exaggerate. You know how dramatic he can be. Remember last week when he said his head hurt, and it was nothing? Victoria let go of me. Marcus, listen to me. This waitress is trying to... I said let go. Marcus ripped his arm away from her. The force knocked over his water glass. Ice cubes scattered across the white tablecloth like broken teeth. Dylan made a sound. A terrible sound. Something between a gag and a moan. His small body lurched forward. His eyes rolled backward, showing only white. Dylan! Marcus knocked his chair over. It crashed into the table behind them. A woman screamed. A man jumped to his feet, but Marcus didn't notice any of it. He lunged for his son just as Dylan slid from his seat. The boy's body hit the marble floor with a sound that Marcus would hear in his nightmares for the rest of his life. A dull, heavy thud, like a bag of sand, like something without bones. Oh my God, someone shouted. The child is having a seizure. Dylan's body convulsed on the floor. His arms jerked, his legs kicked. Foam gathered at the corners of his mouth, white and thick and terrifying. Marcus dropped to his knees. He didn't care about his $3,000 suit. He didn't care about the broken glass cutting into his palms. He grabbed his son and pulled him into his lap. Dylan, Dylan, look at me. Look at Daddy. Dylan couldn't look at anyone. His eyes had rolled back completely. His lips were turning blue. His small chest heaved as he struggled to breathe. Somebody call 911, Marcus screamed. Call 911 right now. Maya was already on her phone. Her fingers shook so badly she almost dropped it twice. Yes, hello. We need an ambulance at the Sterling house on Wilshire Boulevard. A child 7 years old, possible poisoning. He's seizing. He's turning blue. Please hurry. Please, God, hurry. Marcus cradled Dylan's shaking body against his chest. Tears streamed down his face. "Stay with me, buddy. Daddy's here. I'm right here. Don't leave me, Dylan. Please don't leave me." Dylan's body jerked violently. His head snapped back. A stream of vomit erupted from his mouth, splattering across Marcus's shirt. Marcus didn't move. He held his son tighter. "I've got you. Daddy's got you. You're going to be okay. You have to be okay." Victoria stood frozen beside the table. Her hands hung at her sides. She hadn't moved to help. She hadn't knelt beside the boy. She hadn't called for help. She simply stood there watching like a spectator at a play. And that was when Marcus finally saw her. Not the elegant woman he had proposed to 6 months ago. Not the caring presence he thought he was bringing into his son's life. Not the partner who would help him heal from losing Sarah. He saw something else entirely. Something cold, something calculated, something inhuman. "What did you do?" Marcus's voice was barely a whisper, so quiet that only Victoria could hear him. Victoria's left eye twitched. Just once, just for a fraction of a second. Then her composure snapped back into place. "I didn't do anything, Marcus. That waitress is lying. She's obviously trying to extort us. Think about it logically. Why would I? What did you do to my son?" The roar silenced everything. The screaming stopped. The chaos paused. Even Dylan's convulsions seemed to freeze for a moment. Marcus looked up at Victoria with an expression that made her take a step backward. It wasn't anger. It was something far more dangerous. It was the look of a man who suddenly understood that he had invited a predator into his home. Victoria's heel caught on a fallen napkin. She stumbled. Her hand shot out and grabbed a chair to steady herself. "Marcus, you're being irrational. The stress is affecting your judgment. I'm your fiancé. I love you. I love Dylan. I would never." "Don't say his name." "What?" "I said don't say his name. Don't ever say my son's name again." Maya knelt beside Marcus, her phone still pressed to her ear. "Sir, the ambulance is 2 minutes away. I need you to turn him on his side. Make sure he doesn't choke on the vomit." Marcus adjusted Dylan's position with trembling hands. The boy had stopped convulsing, but he wasn't moving at all now. His chest rose and fell in shallow, rapid breaths. "He's my boy," Marcus whispered. "He's all I have. He's all I have left in this world." Maya placed her hand on Marcus's shoulder. "He's going to make it. Help is coming. Just keep talking to him. Let him hear your voice." Victoria watched this exchange with narrowed eyes. Her upper lip curled almost imperceptibly. "Excuse me," Victoria said, her voice sharp. "Who exactly are you to be touching my fiancé?" Maya stood slowly. She turned to face Victoria, and for the first time in her life, Maya Johnson felt absolutely no fear. "I'm the person who watched you poison a child." "That is a lie." "I saw your hand go into your bag. I saw you pull something out. I saw your hand hover over his plate. I saw you wait until Marcus was looking at his phone. I saw you wait until Dylan was looking at his napkin. You thought no one was watching. But I was watching Victoria. I saw everything." Victoria's perfectly manicured hands clenched into fists. Her knuckles went white. "You're just a waitress. You're nothing. You're less than nothing. Do you have any idea who I am? Do you have any idea what I can do to your pathetic little life?" "Right now, I don't care about any of that. Right now, the only thing that matters is that little boy on the floor. The little boy you tried to kill." "I didn't try to kill anyone." "Then why is he dying?" Victoria opened her mouth. No words came out. In the distance, sirens wailed. They grew louder with each passing second. Marcus looked up at Maya. His eyes were red and swollen. Tears and snot covered his face. He looked nothing like the billionaire CEO whose photo appeared in Forbes magazine. He looked like a father whose world was falling apart. "You're sure?" he asked. "You're absolutely certain about what you saw?" Maya didn't hesitate. "I'm sure. And I'll say the same thing to the police. I'll say it in court. I'll say it on national television. I'll say it to anyone who asks. I know what I saw." Victoria laughed. The sound was sharp and brittle like glass breaking. "This is ridiculous. This is absolutely absurd. Marcus, are you really going to believe a waitress over your own fiancé? After everything we've been through, after everything I've sacrificed for you, after all the times I've taken care of Dylan when you were too busy with work." Marcus stared at her. He stared at her like he was seeing her for the first time. "You never took care of him," Marcus said slowly. "You tolerated him. There's a difference." "Marcus, my mother warned me about you. She said you looked at Dylan like he was competition. I told her she was wrong. I told her she was being overprotective. I defended you. I don't know what Eleanor said, but Dylan warned me about you. He asked me if you liked him. He said you seemed sad when I played with him too long. He said you told him things when I wasn't around, things that made him feel like a burden. I told him he was imagining things. I told him to give you more time." Victoria's face twisted. "Children exaggerate. Everyone knows that. Dylan has always been overly sensitive. That's not my fault. He's 7 years old, Victoria. He just lost his mother, and I brought you into his life because I thought—" Marcus's voice broke. He swallowed hard. "I thought you would help him heal. I thought you would love him the way I love him. But you never did. Did you? You never even tried. That's not fair. I tried harder than you know. I bought him presents. I helped with his homework. I made him breakfast. I did everything a stepmother is supposed to do. Except love him." Victoria's jaw tightened. "You're upset. You're not thinking clearly. When Dylan is better, when all of this has calmed down, you'll see that this was all a misunderstanding. That waitress made a mistake. She saw something that wasn't there. Or maybe she did it herself and she's trying to blame me." Maya stepped forward. "Are you seriously trying to blame this on me? I don't even know this child. I've never seen him before tonight. I have no reason to hurt him. But you do. You've been living with him for months, and from what I just heard, you've been making his life miserable the whole time." Victoria turned on Maya with cold fury. "You need to stop talking. Right now. You have no idea what you're getting yourself into. I have lawyers who will destroy you. I have connections who will make sure you never work in this city again. By the time I'm done with you, you'll wish you had kept your mouth shut." Maya didn't flinch. "Threaten me all you want. It won't change what I saw, and it won't change what's about to happen to you." The restaurant doors burst open. Paramedics rushed in pushing a stretcher. 2 men and 1 woman, their faces grim and focused. "Where's the child?" the lead paramedic demanded. "Here!" Marcus shouted. "Please help him! Please save my son!" The paramedics surrounded Dylan. They checked his pulse. They checked his breathing. They shined a light into his eyes. "Pupils are dilated and non-responsive," one of them said. "We need to move him now." They lifted Dylan onto the stretcher. His small body looked impossibly fragile against the white sheets. Tubes and wires appeared from nowhere, connecting him to machines that beeped and hummed. Marcus stood up on shaking legs. His pants were soaked with vomit. His hands were cut from broken glass. He didn't notice any of it. "I'm coming with him," he said. "Are you the father?" "Yes. His mother is—" Marcus's voice caught. "His mother passed away. I'm all he has." The female paramedic nodded. "You can ride with us. Sir, I need to know, has he eaten anything unusual tonight? Has he ingested anything he shouldn't have?" Marcus looked at Victoria. Victoria looked at the floor. "Yes," Marcus said. "Someone put something in his food." "Do you know what substance?" "No, but she does." Marcus pointed at Victoria. "Ask her." Victoria's head snapped up. "I don't know anything. I keep telling you I didn't do this." The lead paramedic looked at Victoria, then at Marcus, then at Maya. "We don't have time for this. We need to get him to Cedars-Sinai. The police can sort out the rest." They wheeled Dylan toward the door. Marcus walked beside the stretcher, his hand resting on his son's chest, feeling each shallow breath like a prayer. At the door, Marcus stopped. He turned back one final time. Victoria stood alone in the middle of the restaurant. Tables had been knocked over. Glass was everywhere. Dozens of witnesses stared at her with horror and disgust. "Victoria," Marcus said. She looked up, a flicker of hope in her eyes. "If my son dies, I will destroy you. Not with lawyers, not with money. I will find a way to make you pay for every second of pain he suffered. Do you understand me?" Victoria's hope died. Her face went blank. Marcus turned and walked out the door without waiting for an answer. Maya watched him go. Then she felt a hand close around her wrist. Hard, painful. Victoria had crossed the room in seconds. Her grip was like iron. "You think you've won something tonight?" Victoria hissed. "You think you've saved the day. But you don't know who you're dealing with. I have resources you can't imagine. And people like you, nobodies who try to interfere with people like me, they tend to disappear." Maya yanked her arm free. "Is that a threat?" "It's a promise. Remember that when you're giving your statement to the police. Remember that when you're lying in bed tonight. Remember my face, because I'll remember yours." Victoria walked toward the exit, her heels clicking against the marble. "Ma'am?" A police officer stepped into her path. Two more appeared behind him. "Victoria Chase." Victoria stopped. She straightened her spine. She lifted her chin. "Yes. We need you to come with us. We have some questions about what happened here tonight." Victoria smiled. It was the smile she used at charity galas, the smile she used when Marcus introduced her to business partners, the smile that had fooled everyone for so long. "Of course, officer. There's clearly been a terrible misunderstanding. I'm happy to clear everything up. I'm actually the victim here. That waitress has been harassing me all evening." The officer's face remained neutral. "We'll get all the statements at the station. Please come with us." As Victoria walked past Maya, she paused. Her smile remained perfect, but her eyes were full of venom. "This isn't over," Victoria whispered. "Not even close." Maya held her gaze. "No, it isn't, because I'm going to make sure you spend the rest of your life in prison." Victoria's smile flickered, just for a moment. Then the officers led her away. Maya stood alone in the ruined restaurant. Her hands were shaking. Her heart was pounding. Her legs felt like they might give out at any moment. A manager approached her. "Maya, what the hell happened? Do you have any idea what you've done? That woman is engaged to Marcus Reynolds. Do you know who he is? Do you know how much money he has? If you're wrong about this, we're all going to get sued into oblivion." Maya looked at her manager. She thought about all the times she had stayed silent, all the times she had looked the other way, all the times she had told herself that it wasn't her business, that she couldn't afford to get involved, that nobody would believe her anyway. "I'm not wrong," Maya said, "and I'd rather get sued for telling the truth than live with the guilt of watching a child die." The manager stared at her for a long moment. Then he sighed and walked away, already reaching for his phone to call the restaurant's lawyers. Maya's phone buzzed. A text from her roommate. "Hey, still at work? Want me to save you some pizza?" Maya stared at the message. A normal question on a normal night. But nothing would be normal after this. She typed back, "Something happened. I'll explain later. Don't wait up." Then she walked outside to wait for the police. The night air was cool against her face. She could still hear sirens in the distance, the ambulance carrying Dylan to the hospital. She thought about the little boy's face, how scared he had looked before he collapsed, how small he had seemed on that huge marble floor. She thought about her mother who had worked in fancy restaurants and hotels for 30 years. Her mother who had seen wealthy people do terrible things to their children, their spouses, their employees. Her mother who had never said a word, because she needed the job, needed the tips, needed to keep food on the table. Her mother had died with regrets, so many regrets. "I won't be like that, Mom," Maya whispered to the empty street. "I won't stay silent, Not ever. A police car pulled up. An officer stepped out. "Are you Maya Johnson?" "The waitress who made the accusation." Maya nodded. "We need to take your statement. It's going to be a long night." Maya climbed into the back of the police car. She had no idea what was coming. She had no idea how much her life was about to change. She had no idea that by morning her face would be on every news channel in the country. All she knew was that she had told the truth. And sometimes that was the bravest thing anyone could do. At Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, Marcus Reynolds sat in a plastic chair and watched his world fall apart. The doctors had taken Dylan into the ICU 40 minutes ago. They had used words like critical and toxicology, and "we're doing everything we can." Those last 5 words, the 5 most terrifying words any parent could hear. Marcus had heard them before, 5 years ago, when Sarah's ambulance had arrived at this same hospital. They had done everything they could. Sarah had died anyway. Now his son was behind those same doors, fighting for his life. And Marcus was sitting in this same waiting room, completely helpless, completely useless, completely destroyed. His phone had buzzed 47 times. His assistant, his business partners, his lawyer, his mother. He had ignored them all. None of it mattered. Nothing mattered except the little boy in the ICU. Marcus stared at his hands. They were still shaking. They were still covered in Dylan's vomit. He hadn't washed them. He couldn't bring himself to wash them. That would mean walking away from this spot. And what if something happened while he was gone? What if Dylan needed him and he wasn't there? He would never forgive himself. He would never ever forgive himself. A shadow fell across his lap. Marcus looked up. Detective James Carter stood before him. Tall, weathered, with the eyes of a man who had seen too much. The detective was holding 2 cups of coffee. "Mr. Reynolds." Marcus nodded. "I'm Detective Carter, LAPD. Thought you might need this." He held out one of the cups. Marcus took it mechanically. He didn't drink. "I know this is the worst possible time," Carter said, sitting down in the chair beside him. "But I need to ask you some questions about what happened tonight. Is Victoria under arrest?" "She's being questioned. We're waiting on the test results from your son's food and from a vial we found in her purse." Marcus's coffee cup crumpled in his hand. Hot liquid spilled over his fingers. He didn't react. "A vial?" Carter nodded. "Small. Glass. Empty. It was in her handbag. She claims she doesn't know how it got there. She claims someone must have planted it." "And the security footage?" Carter hesitated. "The restaurant's cameras captured the incident from multiple angles. We can see Ms. Chase reaching into her bag. We can see her hand hovering over your son's plate. The angle isn't perfect. We can't see exactly what was in her hand. But combined with the witness testimony and the physical evidence..." Marcus closed his eyes. The coffee dripped onto the floor. He didn't move to clean it up. "How could I have been so blind?" he whispered. Carter leaned forward. "Mr. Reynolds, I've been doing this job for 28 years. I've seen husbands fooled by wives, wives fooled by husbands, parents fooled by children, children fooled by parents. We believe what we want to believe. It's human nature. You're not the first person this has happened to, and you won't be the last." "My son tried to tell me." Marcus's voice cracked. 3 weeks ago, he came to me at bedtime. He asked if Victoria liked him. He said she seemed sad when I played with him too long. He said she told him things when I wasn't around. "What kind of things?" "That big men get tired when children cause problems. That maybe Dylan should try to need less. That his mother wouldn't want him to be so clingy." Marcus's hands clenched into fists. "And I told him he was wrong. I told him Victoria loved him. I told him to give her more time. I told my own son that his feelings didn't matter. You couldn't have known. I should have known." Marcus slammed his fist against the armrest. The crack echoed through the empty waiting room. "I'm his father. I'm supposed to protect him. That's my one job. And instead, I brought a monster into our home. I let her sit across from him at breakfast every morning. I let her tuck him in at night. I let her be alone with him while I was at work." Marcus's voice broke. Tears streamed down his face. What did she do to him when I wasn't watching? What did she say to him? How scared was he? How long has he been suffering while I was too blind to see? Carter handed Marcus a tissue. Marcus didn't take it. "The waitress who made the accusation," Carter said. "Maya Johnson. She gave a very detailed statement, very consistent. She didn't waver once. She's volunteered to testify if the case goes to trial." Marcus wiped his face with the back of his hand. "She saved my son's life. A complete stranger. She risked her job, her safety, everything to save a child she had never met before. While I, his own father, sat there checking my phone like an idiot. You didn't know. I should have been paying attention. I should have been watching. If I had been watching..." The ICU doors swung open. A doctor walked toward them. Female mid-50s with gray hair and the calm demeanor of someone who delivered life-changing news every single day. Marcus was on his feet before she finished crossing the room. "My son is, he please tell me he's stable," the doctor said. Marcus's knees buckled. Carter caught his arm, held him up. "He's going to live." Marcus could barely get the words out. The toxicology results came back. He was given a synthetic compound relatively rare, not available over the counter. In the dose he received, it causes severe gastrointestinal distress, vomiting, and temporary neurological symptoms, including seizures. "Will there be permanent damage?" The doctor's expression softened slightly. "He's very lucky, Mr. Reynolds. A larger dose could have caused organ failure, kidney damage, brain damage, death. But the amount in his system was calibrated carefully, just below the threshold for permanent harm." Marcus felt sick. "Calibrated? What do you mean, calibrated?" "I mean, whoever did this knew exactly what they were doing. They chose a dose that would make him extremely ill, frighteningly ill, but probably wouldn't kill him. This wasn't random. This wasn't accidental. This was precise." Marcus thought about Victoria, her careful, calculating nature, her attention to detail, her obsession with control. She had measured the dose perfectly. Enough to cause maximum suffering, enough to create maximum chaos, but not quite enough to commit murder, because murder was harder to get away with than assault. "Can I see him?" Marcus asked. "He's sleeping now. The sedation will wear off in a few hours, but yes, you can sit with him." Marcus followed the doctor through the ICU doors. Dylan looked impossibly small in the hospital bed. Tubes and wires connected him to machines that beeped steadily. An IV drip hung beside him. His face was pale but peaceful. The terror from earlier was gone. Marcus pulled a chair to the bedside. He took his son's hand, so small, so fragile, and held it gently. "I'm sorry," Marcus whispered. "I'm so sorry, buddy. Daddy made a terrible mistake. Daddy should have listened to you. Daddy should have believed you. Daddy should have protected you." Dylan didn't stir. His chest rose and fell in the rhythm of drugged sleep. Marcus thought about Sarah, his wife, Dylan's mother, the woman who had loved their son with a ferocity that frightened him sometimes. Sarah would never have let Victoria into their lives. Sarah would have seen through her in seconds. Sarah had always been the smart one, the perceptive one, the one who could read people like books. And when she died, Marcus had been so lost, so desperate to fill the hole she left behind, so hungry for someone to share the burden of raising Dylan alone. He had ignored every red flag. He had dismissed every warning. He had sacrificed his son's safety on the altar of his own loneliness. "I failed you," Marcus said, tears streaming down his face. "I failed you, Dylan. I failed you, and I failed your mother. She trusted me to take care of you, and I let you down." He brought Dylan's hand to his lips and kissed it gently. "But I'm going to make it right. I don't know how yet, but I'm going to make it right. I'm going to spend the rest of my life making it right. I promise you, buddy. I promise on your mother's grave. Nothing and no one will ever hurt you again. The machines beeped. The night stretched on. And somewhere across the city, Victoria Chase was discovering that her perfect plan had fallen perfectly apart. At the police station, Victoria sat in an interrogation room that smelled like stale coffee and desperation. She had been here for 3 hours. 3 hours of questions. 3 hours of accusations. 3 hours of watching her carefully constructed life crumble around her. But Victoria Chase was not a woman who gave up easily. She had grown up poor, dirt poor, the daughter of a waitress and an absent father. She had clawed her way out of poverty through beauty intelligence and ruthless determination. She had married her first husband at 22, divorced him at 25 with a settlement that paid for her MBA. She had climbed the corporate ladder with calculated precision, dating the right men, befriending the right women, always positioning herself for the next opportunity. Marcus Reynolds was supposed to be her crowning achievement, a self-made billionaire, a widower with a young child, perfect, vulnerable, ripe for the taking. All she had to do was play the role of devoted stepmother for a few years. Wait for the ring, wait for the wedding, wait for the joint accounts and the shared assets and the legal entanglement that would make divorce too expensive for him to consider. But the child had ruined everything. Dylan, with his big sad eyes and his clingy behavior and his constant need for attention. Dylan, who looked at her with suspicion from the very first day. Dylan, who asked questions she couldn't answer. Dylan, who made Marcus remember his dead wife every single time he looked at his son's face. Victoria had tried to be patient. She had tried to win the boy over. She had tried every trick in her considerable arsenal. Nothing worked. Dylan didn't want a new mother. He wanted his old mother. And no matter how hard Victoria tried, she could never compete with a ghost. So she had decided to remove the competition. Not permanently. She wasn't a monster. She didn't want the child dead. She just wanted him gone. A few doses of the compound her friend Monica had provided. A few trips to the emergency room. A few sleepless nights for Marcus watching his son suffer from a mysterious illness that no doctor could explain. Eventually, Marcus would start to see Dylan as a burden. Eventually, he would consider other options. Boarding school in Switzerland. A live-in nurse. Grandma Eleanor taking custody. Eventually, Victoria would have Marcus all to herself. That was the plan. But the waitress had ruined everything. A knock on the door. Detective Carter entered carrying a folder. "Ms. Chase, I have some news." Victoria straightened in her chair. She had spent the last 3 hours maintaining her innocence. She had cried on cue. She had expressed shock and concern. She had blamed Maya Johnson, suggested the waitress was mentally ill, implied she had some kind of grudge against wealthy patrons. None of it had worked. "The test results came back," Carter said, sitting down across from her. "From the vial in your purse." Victoria's stomach dropped, but her face remained calm. "I already told you I don't know how that vial got in my bag. Someone must have planted it. Maybe the waitress. Maybe someone at the restaurant. I'm being set up." Carter opened the folder. The vial contained traces of a synthetic compound called hexobarbital 7. It's not commercially available. It's not prescribed by doctors. It's manufactured in underground labs and sold on the black market. Primarily used for... He paused and looked up at her. "Poisoning." "I've never heard of that in my life." "Really? Because we also tested the residue on the inside of your Hermes bag. Same compound. Same concentration. And we tested the food on Dylan's plate. Also the same compound." Victoria felt sweat forming on her upper lip. She forced herself not to wipe it away. "Someone is framing me. This is obviously..." "We have security footage, Ms. Chase, from 4 different cameras. I've watched it 17 times in the last 3 hours. Want to know what I see?" Victoria said nothing. "I see you reaching into your bag at 7:47 p.m. I see you removing something small, can't quite make out what it is, and holding it under the table. I see your hand moving toward Dylan's plate at 7:48 p.m. while Marcus is looking at his phone, and Dylan is adjusting his napkin. I see your hand hovering over the mashed potatoes for approximately 3 seconds. Then I see you put your hand back in your lap and smile. The footage is inconclusive. You just said yourself you can't see what's in my hand. True. But then at 7:52 p.m., 4 minutes later, Dylan starts showing symptoms. By 7:54, he's on the floor having a seizure. That's a very specific timeline, Ms. Chase. Consistent with the absorption rate of hexobarbital 7. Victoria's mask slipped for just a moment. Her eye twitched, her jaw tightened. Then the mask returned. I want my lawyer. Carter nodded slowly. That's your right. But before you make that call, I think you should know something. What? Dylan Reynolds is awake, he's talking, and he's telling us all kinds of interesting things. Victoria froze. What kind of things? Things about you, Ms. Chase. Things you said to him when his father wasn't around. Things you did when no one was watching. Turns out that kid has a very good memory. And he's been waiting a long time for someone to finally listen. Victoria's face went pale. You're lying. He's 7 years old. No one's going to believe a 7-year-old. Carter stood up. Maybe. Maybe not. But here's the thing about kids, Ms. Chase. They don't lie about fear. They don't lie about pain. They might get details wrong, they might exaggerate sometimes, but when a child says, "This person scared me," you better believe there's truth in it. He walked to the door. Your lawyer should be here within the hour. In the meantime, I'd suggest you start thinking about your options. Because right now, you're looking at attempted murder of a minor assault with a deadly weapon and conspiracy. That's 25 to life in California. It wasn't murder, I didn't try to kill him. Carter turned back. Then what did you try to do? Victoria opened her mouth. Closed it. Opened it again. I want my lawyer, she repeated. Carter nodded. Smart choice. He left. The door clicked shut. Victoria sat alone in the interrogation room, staring at the gray walls, listening to the buzz of the fluorescent lights. For the first time in her life, she had no plan. For the first time in her life, she had no escape. For the first time in her life, Victoria Chase was truly afraid. But fear for a woman like Victoria quickly transformed into something else. Rage. She wasn't going down alone. If she was going to burn, she would take everyone with her. Marcus, Dylan, Maya. Everyone who had stood in her way. Everyone who had ruined her perfect plan. They would all pay, one way or another. They would all pay. Victoria's lawyer arrived at 2:47 a.m. His name was Richard Brennan, and he charged $800 an hour. He wore a suit that cost more than most people's monthly rent, and his eyes held the cold calculation of a man who had gotten guilty people off for 30 years. Don't say another word, Richard said as he sat down across from Victoria. Not one more word until I tell you to. Victoria exhaled slowly. They have footage. They have the vial. They have a witness. Richard opened his briefcase and pulled out a legal pad. Footage can be interpreted multiple ways. The vial could have been planted. Witnesses can be discredited. What else do they have? The boy is awake. He's talking. Richard's pen stopped moving. What is he saying? Victoria's jaw tightened. I don't know exactly, but the detective implied that Dylan has been telling them things. Things I said to him when Marcus wasn't around. What kind of things? Victoria looked at her lawyer. For the first time all night, her mask cracked completely. I may have said some things I shouldn't have. Richard leaned back in his chair. Victoria, I need you to be completely honest with me, right now, in this room, because whatever you tell me stays between us. But if I walk into that courtroom without knowing the full picture, I can't protect you. Victoria was silent for a long moment. Then she spoke. I hated that child. Richard didn't react. His face remained neutral. I hated him from the moment I met him. He looked at me like I was a threat. He clung to Marcus like I was going to steal his father away. He talked about his dead mother constantly, Sarah this, Sarah that, as if I was supposed to compete with a ghost. Go on. I tried to be patient. I tried to win him over, but nothing worked. And the longer it went on, the more I realized that Marcus would never choose me over Dylan. Never. That boy was always going to come first. So you decided to remove him from the equation. Victoria's eyes flashed. I didn't want to kill him. I want that on the record. I never intended to kill him. I just wanted to make him sick. Sick enough that Marcus would start seeing him as a burden. Sick enough that he would consider other options. Other options like what? Boarding school, a live-in medical nurse, sending him to live with his grandmother. I didn't care which one. I just wanted him out of the house. Richard wrote something on his legal pad. Where did you get the compound? A friend. Monica Hartwell. She has connections. What kind of connections? The kind that don't ask questions. Richard nodded slowly. Here's the situation, Victoria. You're facing attempted murder charges. The prosecution will argue that you knew the substance was dangerous, that you administered it deliberately, and that only the quick action of a witness prevented your victim from dying. But I didn't try to kill him. I measured the dose carefully. I researched the compound. I knew exactly how much to give him. That's actually worse. Victoria's head snapped up. What do you mean? Premeditation, planning, research. You've just described a calculated attack on a child, not a moment of passion. The jury will see you as a cold-blooded predator who targeted a 7-year-old orphan. He's not an orphan. He has a father. A father who was being manipulated by a woman who was slowly poisoning his son. That's how the prosecution will frame it, Victoria. And frankly, that's how the jury will see it too. Victoria felt something she rarely felt. Fear. Real fear. What are my options? Richard looked at her for a long moment. You could plead guilty. Throw yourself on the mercy of the court. Express remorse. Maybe get 10 to 15 instead of 25 to life. And my other option? Fight it. Challenge the evidence. Discredit the witness. Hope for a sympathetic jury. Richard paused. But I should warn you. I've seen the preliminary reports. The waitress is credible. The footage is damning. And the boy's testimony, if he takes the stand, will destroy any chance we have. Victoria's eyes narrowed. Then we need to make sure he doesn't take the stand. Richard stopped writing. Victoria, if you're suggesting what I think you're suggesting, I'm not suggesting anything. I'm just saying that a 7-year-old child who was recently traumatized might not be a reliable witness. He might be confused. He might be influenced by his father's emotions. A good defense attorney could make that case. Richard studied her face. You really don't feel any remorse, do you? Victoria smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. I feel regret. Regret that I got caught. Regret that some nobody waitress decided to play hero. But remorse for what? For trying to build a life with a man I loved, for refusing to let a child stand in my way. That child is in the hospital, Victoria. He'll recover. The doctors said so themselves. Richard shook his head slowly. I've defended a lot of people over the years. Murderers, thieves, con artists, but I don't think I've ever met anyone quite like you. Is that a compliment? It's an observation. Richard stood up. I'll file a motion for bail in the morning. Given your lack of criminal history and ties to the community, there's a chance the judge will grant it. But if you go anywhere near Marcus Reynolds or his son, you will spend the rest of your life in prison. Do you understand? Victoria nodded. I understand. But as Richard left the room, Victoria was already planning her next move. She had not survived poverty abuse and 2 failed marriages by giving up when things got hard. She had survived by being smarter, colder, and more ruthless than everyone around her. And she wasn't about to stop now. At 6:15 a.m., Marcus Reynolds woke up in a hospital chair. His neck ached, his back screamed. His suit was still covered in vomit and blood. But none of that mattered, because Dylan was awake. Dad! Marcus's head snapped up. His son was looking at him with those big brown eyes, Sarah's eyes. Hey, buddy. Marcus's voice broke. He grabbed Dylan's hand and held it tight. "How are you feeling?" "My tummy still hurts, but not as bad as before." "The doctors gave you medicine. It's helping." Dylan was quiet for a moment. Then he asked the question Marcus had been dreading. "Where's Victoria?" Marcus felt his stomach drop. "She's not here, buddy." "Is she in trouble?" "Yes. Because of what she did to my food." Marcus stared at his son. "You knew." Dylan's lower lip trembled. "I saw her, Dad. When you were looking at your phone. I saw her put something in my mashed potatoes. But I didn't say anything because I thought maybe I was wrong. And I didn't want you to be mad at me." Marcus felt his heart shatter into 1,000 pieces. "Why would I be mad at you?" "Because you love Victoria. And every time I said something bad about her, you got that look on your face. Like you were disappointed in me." Tears streamed down Marcus's face. "Dylan, I was never disappointed in you. Never. I was so desperate to have a family again. I was so lonely after your mom died. I thought Victoria would help fill that hole. But I was wrong. I was so wrong." Dylan squeezed his father's hand. "I miss Mommy. I miss her too, buddy, every single day. Victoria said Mommy would be ashamed of me. She said Mommy would want me to be less needy. She said I was too much for you to handle." Marcus's grief transformed into something else. Something hot and sharp and dangerous. "When did she say that?" "Lots of times. When you weren't home, or when you were in your office. She would come into my room and tell me things." "What kind of things?" Dylan's eyes filled with tears. "She said I was the reason you were sad. She said if I wasn't here you would be happy again. She said I should try to disappear. I asked her what disappear meant and she said it meant going away so people could forget about you." Marcus couldn't breathe. The room was spinning. He gripped the edge of Dylan's bed to steady himself. How long has she been saying these things to you?" Dylan shrugged. "Since she moved in. Almost every day." "Why didn't you tell me?" "I tried, Dad. Remember I asked you if Victoria liked me. And you said I was being silly. You said she loved me. You said I should give her more time." Marcus remembered. He remembered that conversation vividly. Dylan had come to him 3 weeks ago, his face troubled, his voice small. And Marcus had dismissed him, brushed him off, told him everything was fine. Because he had wanted everything to be fine. He had needed everything to be fine. And his son had paid the price. "I'm sorry." Marcus's voice was barely a whisper. "I'm so sorry, Dylan. I should have listened. I should have believed you. This is all my fault." Dylan shook his head. "It's not your fault, Dad. Victoria fooled you. She fooled everyone. She was really good at pretending." Marcus looked at his 7-year-old son with something like awe. After everything Dylan had been through, after months of emotional abuse and a near-fatal poisoning, the boy was comforting his father. Sarah would have been so proud of him. "You're the bravest person I know," Marcus said. "Do you know that?" Dylan smiled weakly. "Braver than Spider-Man. Braver than all the Spider-Mans put together." A knock at the door interrupted them. Detective Carter stepped in, his face serious. "Mr. Reynolds, I'm sorry to interrupt, but we need to talk. It's urgent." Marcus looked at Dylan. "I'll be right back, okay?" Dylan nodded. "Okay, Dad." Marcus followed Carter into the hallway. The detective's expression made his blood run cold. "What is it?" "Victoria Chase made bail this morning. She posted bond an hour ago." Marcus felt like he had been punched in the gut. "How is that possible? She tried to kill my son." "Her lawyer is good, very good. He argued that she's not a flight risk, that she has no prior criminal history, and that the charges are still pending verification. She's out. She's just walking around free. There's a restraining order. She can't come within 500 feet of you or Dylan. But technically, yes, she's out." Marcus's hands clenched into fists. "This is insane. She poisoned a child. She admitted to it. And she's just walking around like nothing happened." The justice system isn't perfect, Mr. Reynolds. I wish I could tell you otherwise, but the truth is that money buys advantages. Always has. Always will. Marcus thought about all the times he had used his own wealth to get what he wanted. The corners cut, the rules bent, the obstacles removed. Now that same system was being used against his son. "What do I do?" Marcus asked. "How do I protect Dylan?" "Keep him close. Hire security if you haven't already. Document everything. And if Victoria tries to contact you in any way, call me immediately." Marcus nodded, but inside, he was making a different kind of calculation. He had built a billion-dollar company from nothing. He had outmaneuvered competitors, survived hostile takeovers, and navigated corporate warfare that would make most people's heads spin. If Victoria wanted a war, he would give her one, and he would not lose. At 11:30 a.m., Maya Johnson arrived at work to find two news vans parked outside the restaurant. She stopped walking. Her heart began to pound. "There she is!" someone shouted. "That's the waitress." Suddenly, cameras were everywhere. Microphones were shoved in her face. Reporters were shouting questions. "Ms. Johnson, how did you know the food was poisoned? Did you know the Reynolds family before tonight? Are you expecting a reward for saving the boy's life? Is it true that Victoria Chase threatened you?" Maya pushed through the crowd, her head down, her heart racing. She made it through the restaurant doors and slammed them shut behind her. Her manager Greg was waiting inside. His face was pale. "Maya, my office, now." She followed him through the kitchen, past the staring faces of her co-workers, into the small back office that smelled like old coffee and anxiety. Greg closed the door. "Sit down." Maya sat. "The owner called this morning," Greg said. "He's not happy." "Not happy I saved a child's life." "You caused a scene in the middle of dinner service. You accused a guest of attempted murder. You brought cameras and reporters and police into his restaurant." Maya stared at him. "A 7-year-old boy almost died. Are you seriously telling me that's less important than bad publicity?" Greg rubbed his forehead. "I'm telling you that this is complicated. Victoria Chase comes from money. She has powerful friends. If she decides to sue us for defamation, I told the truth. The truth doesn't always matter in court, Maya, you know that." Maya felt something cold settle in her stomach. "So, what are you saying? Am I fired?" Greg was silent for a long moment. "Not yet. The owner wants to see how this plays out first. But in the meantime, you're suspended. With pay," he added quickly. "Just until things calm down." Maya stood up. Her chair scraped loudly against the floor. "I did the right thing. A little boy is alive because I spoke up, and you're punishing me for it." "I'm not punishing you. I'm protecting the business." "The business?" Maya laughed bitterly. "I grew up watching my mother protect the business. She worked in places just like this for 30 years. She watched rich people do terrible things, and she never said a word because she was protecting the business. Do you know what happened to her?" Greg said nothing. "She died, exhausted and broken, full of regrets. She told me on her deathbed that the worst thing she ever did was stay silent when she should have spoken up." Maya grabbed her purse from the chair. "I'm not going to be like her. I don't care what it costs me." She walked to the door. "Maya, wait." She stopped, but didn't turn around. "For what it's worth," Greg said quietly. "I think you did the right thing too. I just don't know if that's enough to save either of us." Maya left without responding. Outside, the reporters were still waiting. But this time, Maya didn't run. She stopped in front of the cameras and took a deep breath. "I have something to say." The crowd went quiet. Microphones appeared. "My name is Maya Johnson. Last night I witnessed a woman poison a 7-year-old boy. I spoke up because I couldn't stay silent while a child was dying. I don't know what's going to happen next. I don't know if I'll keep my job or lose everything. But I know this, if I had to do it all over again, I would make the same choice. Because some things are more important than protecting yourself, and protecting children is one of them." She turned and walked away, ignoring the shouted questions behind her. She had no idea that Marcus Reynolds was watching the live broadcast from his son's hospital room, and she had no idea that her words had just changed everything. At 3:45 p.m., Marcus made a phone call. "Robert, I need a favor." Robert Chen was Marcus's head of security, former Secret Service, former FBI, the kind of man who knew things that never appeared in official reports. "What do you need?" "Victoria Chase. I want to know everything about her. Every secret, every lie, every skeleton in every closet. I want to know what she eats for breakfast and who she talks to at midnight." "That's going to take resources." "Money isn't an issue. Nothing is an issue. My son almost died, Robert. And the woman who did it is walking around free." A pause. "I'll have a preliminary report by tomorrow morning." "Make it tonight." "Understood." Marcus hung up. He looked at Dylan, who was sleeping peacefully in the hospital bed. The color had returned to the boy's face. His breathing was steady and strong. He would recover. The doctors had assured Marcus of that. But recovery wasn't just physical. The things Victoria had said to Dylan, the fear she had planted in his heart, the months of quiet cruelty, those wounds would take much longer to heal. Marcus thought about Sarah, about the promises he had made at her funeral, about the life he had sworn to build for their son. He had failed, spectacularly, completely. But failure, Marcus knew, was never final. It was only final if you stopped fighting, and Marcus Reynolds had never stopped fighting in his life. At 7:22 p.m., Victoria Chase sat in her penthouse apartment, sipping wine and watching the news. The reporter was talking about her case, showing footage from the restaurant, replaying Maya Johnson's impromptu press conference. Victoria's hand tightened around her glass. That waitress, that nobody, that insignificant little insect who had destroyed everything. Victoria was going to make her pay. She didn't know how yet, but she was going to find a way. Her phone buzzed. A text from Monica. "Heard what happened? Are you okay?" Victoria typed back. "No, but I will be." "What are you going to do?" Victoria smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. "Whatever I have to." She set down her phone and stared out the window at the Los Angeles skyline. Somewhere out there, Marcus was sitting with his precious son, probably planning his next move. And somewhere out there, Maya Johnson was probably feeling proud of herself. They both thought they had won. They were both wrong. Victoria Chase didn't lose. She had never lost. And she wasn't about to start now. The war was just beginning. Robert Chen's report arrived at 9:47 p.m. that same night. Marcus sat in the hospital room, Dylan asleep beside him, and opened the encrypted file on his laptop. What he found made his blood turn to ice. Victoria Chase was not who she claimed to be. Her real name was Victoria Kowalski. Born in Detroit to a factory worker father and a mother who disappeared when she was 6. She had changed her name legally at 21, the same year she married her first husband, a wealthy real estate developer named Thomas Whitmore. Thomas Whitmore died 18 months later. Heart attack. He was 43 years old and in perfect health. Victoria inherited everything. Marcus's hands began to shake as he kept reading. Her second husband was Gregory Chase, a hedge fund manager. They were married for 3 years. Gregory died in a car accident on the Pacific Coast Highway. Single vehicle. No witnesses. Victoria was the sole beneficiary of his $12 million life insurance policy. 2 husbands, both dead, both wealthy, both left everything to Victoria. Marcus looked at his sleeping son and felt sick to his stomach. He had invited this woman into his home. He had let her sit across from Dylan at breakfast every morning. He had left his child alone with her for hours at a time. If the waitress hadn't screamed, if Maya Johnson had stayed silent, Dylan would be dead right now. And Marcus would have been next. His phone rang. Robert's number. Did you read it? Robert asked. I read it. There's more. I didn't want to put it in the file. Marcus gripped the phone tighter. Tell me. Monica Hartwell, the friend who supplied the poison. She has a record. Multiple arrests for fraud, forgery, and possession of controlled substances. She's also connected to a network of underground chemists who manufacture untraceable compounds. How is Victoria connected to her? They went to college together, roommates for 2 years. They've stayed in touch ever since. My sources tell me Monica has helped Victoria with quote-unquote problems before. What kind of problems? Robert paused. The kind that disappear permanently. Marcus closed his eyes. Are you saying Victoria had her husbands killed? I'm saying there's a pattern, and patterns don't lie. Can you prove it? Not yet, but give me time. If there's evidence, I'll find it. Marcus hung up and stared at his son's peaceful face. He had almost lost Dylan to a serial killer, and the serial killer was walking free. At 6:30 a.m. the next morning, Maya Johnson woke up to someone pounding on her apartment door. She stumbled out of bed, still wearing yesterday's clothes, and looked through the peephole. Detective Carter stood in the hallway. Maya opened the door. What's wrong? Did something happen to Dylan? Dylan's fine, but we have a problem. Carter walked in without waiting for an invitation. Victoria Chase filed a countersuit this morning, against you. Maya felt the floor shift beneath her feet. A countersuit for what? Defamation. Intentional infliction of emotional distress. And here's the kicker, she's claiming you were the one who poisoned Dylan. Maya's mouth fell open. That's insane. That's completely insane. I didn't even know that family before last night. I know, but her lawyer is good, very good. He's already spinning a narrative. He's saying you were a disgruntled employee who wanted to cause a scene. He's saying you had access to the kitchen and could have tampered with the food. He's saying you accused Victoria to cover your own tracks. Maya sank onto her couch. Her head was spinning. This can't be happening. I told the truth. I saved that boy's life. Carter sat down across from her. I believe you. The evidence supports you. But evidence doesn't always win in court. Victoria has money connections and a lawyer who knows how to manipulate juries. So what do? You fight back. You get a lawyer of your own. And you don't let her intimidate you. Maya laughed bitterly. Get a lawyer. With what money? I'm a waitress detective. I make $12 an hour plus tips. I can't afford to fight a billionaire's fiancée in court. Carter was quiet for a moment. Then he said, there might be someone who can help with that. Who? Marcus Reynolds. He called me this morning. He wants to meet with you. Maya shook her head. I don't want his money. I didn't do this for a reward. I know. But this isn't about rewards anymore. Victoria is trying to destroy you. She's trying to flip the narrative and make you the villain. If you don't fight back, she might actually win. Maya stared at the floor. She thought about her mother, about all the times her mother had backed down from fights she should have won, about all the regrets that had haunted her until the very end. Fine, Maya said. Set up the meeting. At 10:15 a.m., Marcus Reynolds walked into a coffee shop in Santa Monica. Maya was already there, sitting in a corner booth, her hands wrapped around a cup of tea. She looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes, tension in her shoulders. Marcus sat down across from her. Thank you for coming, he said. Detective Carter said it was important. It is. Marcus leaned forward. Victoria is coming after you. You know that, right? Maya nodded. I heard. Defamation lawsuit. She's claiming I'm the one who poisoned your son. It's a lie. We both know it's a lie. But Victoria is dangerous, Maya. More dangerous than you realize. Marcus pulled out his phone and showed her the report Robert had compiled. Maya's face went pale as she read. 2 dead husbands. Both left her everything. Both died under suspicious circumstances, both within 2 years of marrying her. Maya looked up. You think she killed them? I think there's a pattern. And I think Dylan was supposed to be the beginning of a new pattern. Make the child sick. Maybe make the child die. Then comfort the grieving father. Marry him. Inherit everything. Marcus's voice hardened. She's not just a jealous fiancée, Maya. She's a predator. And you're standing between her and everything she wants. Maya set down her tea. Her hands were shaking. Why are you telling me this? Because I need your help. And because you need mine. What do you mean? Marcus took a deep breath. I'm going to fund your legal defense. The best lawyers money can buy. I'm going to make sure Victoria's countersuit goes nowhere. And in return, I need you to testify at her trial. I was already planning to testify. I know, but I need you to do more than that. I need you to help me expose her, everything she's done, every lie she's told, every person she's hurt. Maya studied Marcus's face. She saw desperation there, fear, and something else, determination. Why me? She asked. You have money. You have resources. You could hire 100 investigators. Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then he said, because you're the only person who was brave enough to speak up when it mattered. Everyone else in that restaurant saw something was wrong. But you were the only one who screamed. You were the only one who risked everything to save a child you didn't even know. His voice cracked. I've spent my whole life surrounded by people who tell me what I want to hear. People who protect me from hard truths. People who would rather watch a child die than cause a scene in a fancy restaurant. But you're different. You told the truth when it cost you everything, and that's exactly the kind of person I need right now. Maya looked at the report on Marcus's phone, at the faces of Victoria's dead husbands, at the timeline of her crimes. Okay, she said finally. I'll help you, but not for the money and not for the lawyers. Then why? Maya met his eyes. Because my mother spent her whole life staying silent. And I promised myself I would never be like her. At 2:30 p.m., Victoria Chase made a phone call. Monica, I need your help again. Monica Hartwell laughed on the other end of the line. What happened to lying low? Your lawyer said. Forget what my lawyer said. Things have changed. Marcus has a private investigator looking into my past. Silence. How do you know that? I have sources. The investigator is named Robert Chen, former FBI. He's digging into Thomas and Gregory. Monica's voice tightened. That's not good, Victoria. I know. That's why I'm calling you. What do you want me to do? Victoria paused. She walked to her window and looked out at the city. Somewhere out there, Marcus Reynolds was plotting against her. And somewhere out there, that waitress was probably feeling proud of herself. The waitress, Victoria said. Maya Johnson. She's the key to everything. Without her testimony, the case against me falls apart. You want me to deal with her? I want you to make sure she can't testify. Another pause. That's going to cost extra. Money isn't a problem. Just make it look like an accident. The police are already watching me. They can't connect anything back to me. And if they do, Victoria smiled coldly. They won't. You've never let me down before, Monica. Fine. I'll need a few days to put things in place. You have 48 hours. The preliminary hearing is Friday. I need her gone before then. Victoria hung up and poured herself another glass of wine. The pieces were falling into place. The waitress would disappear, the case would collapse, and Victoria would walk free. Then she would deal with Marcus. At 5:15 p.m., Dylan Reynolds was discharged from the hospital. Marcus carried him to the car, even though Dylan insisted he could walk. The boy's color had returned. His energy was coming back. Physically, he was almost fully recovered. But emotionally, Marcus knew the damage would take much longer to heal. Dad, Dylan said as Marcus buckled him into the back seat. Yeah, buddy. Is Victoria going to come back? Marcus felt his heart clench. No. She's never coming near you again, I promise. But she's not in jail. I saw it on the TV at the hospital. Marcus knelt beside the open car door. She's not in jail yet, but she will be. I'm going to make sure of it. Dylan's lower lip trembled. She told me things, Dad. Bad things. I know. You told me some of them. Not all of them. Dylan looked down at his hands. She said if I told you she would make sure I never saw you again. She said she would send me away to a place where bad children go. She said I would be alone forever. Marcus felt rage building in his chest. Hot, burning rage. That was a lie, Dylan. Everything she said was a lie. You're not a bad child. You're the best child in the whole world. And no one is ever going to take you away from me. Dylan looked up. Promise. I promise. On Mommy's grave. Dylan nodded slowly. Then he reached out and hugged Marcus tight. I love you, Dad. I love you too, buddy. More than anything in the universe. As Marcus drove home, he made a decision. He wasn't going to wait for the justice system. He wasn't going to trust lawyers and judges and juries. He was going to destroy Victoria Chase himself. At 8:45 p.m., Maya Johnson walked home from the grocery store. Her apartment was only 6 blocks away. She had made this walk 1,000 times before. She knew every crack in the sidewalk, every flickering streetlight, every shadow. But tonight something felt different. She couldn't explain it. Just a feeling in her gut. A prickling at the back of her neck. The sense that someone was watching her. Maya quickened her pace. Behind her footsteps echoed, matching her rhythm, speeding up when she sped up. Maya's heart began to pound. She reached into her purse and grabbed her keys. Her mother had taught her to hold them between her fingers like a weapon, just in case. The footsteps grew closer. Maya turned a corner and broke into a run. She could hear someone running behind her now. Not trying to hide anymore. Coming fast. Maya screamed. Help! Someone help me! She burst through the door of a convenience store, gasping for breath. The clerk behind the counter looked up in alarm. Call 911, Maya shouted. Someone's following me. The clerk grabbed the phone. Maya pressed herself against the window and looked out at the street. A figure stood on the corner, watching her. A woman in a dark hoodie. Then the woman turned and walked away, disappearing into the shadows. Maya was still shaking when the police arrived. At 11:30 p.m., Detective Carter knocked on Marcus Reynolds' door. Marcus opened it, surprised. Detective, it's late. What happened? Someone tried to attack Maya Johnson tonight. Marcus's face went pale. Is she okay? She's shaken but unharmed. She got away before they could reach her. But Marcus, this wasn't random. She was being followed, stalked. Someone wants her gone. Marcus felt cold fury rising in his chest. Victoria. We can't prove that. Maya didn't see the attacker's face. There's no surveillance footage, no witnesses. It was Victoria. Who else would want Maya dead? Carter stepped inside and closed the door behind him. Listen to me. I know you want to handle this yourself. I can see it in your eyes. But if you do something stupid, if you go after Victoria directly, you'll end up in prison, and Dylan will lose his father. So what am I supposed to do? Wait until she succeeds. I'm putting a protective detail on Maya. 2 officers around the clock, and I'm increasing surveillance on Victoria. If she makes another move, we'll catch her. Marcus shook his head. That's not enough. You know it's not enough. Carter looked at him for a long moment. There's another way. What? Monica Hartwell, Victoria's friend, the one who supplied the poison. What about her? We've been watching her. She's getting nervous, making mistakes. If we can get her to testify against Victoria, the whole case breaks wide open. Marcus's eyes narrowed. How do we turn her? Carter smiled grimly. By making her more afraid of us than she is of Victoria. At 1:15 a.m., Victoria Chase received a text from Monica. There's a problem. The waitress got away. Cops are everywhere now. I can't try again. Victoria threw her wine glass against the wall. It shattered into 1,000 pieces. She typed back furiously. This was your one job. You had one job. I'm sorry, V, but it's too hot right now. They're watching me. If I make another move, they'll connect it to you. Victoria stared at her phone. Everything was falling apart. The waitress was still alive. The case was still proceeding. And now the police were closing in. She needed a new plan. She needed something bigger, something that would change everything. Victoria sat in the darkness of her penthouse, surrounded by broken glass, and began to think. Marcus Reynolds had money, power, resources. But Victoria had something he didn't. She had nothing left to lose. And people with nothing to lose were the most dangerous people in the world. At 3:30 a.m., Marcus sat alone in his home office. Dylan was asleep upstairs, protected by the best security system money could buy. Robert Chen had sent 2 of his men to stand guard outside. The house was a fortress, but Marcus couldn't sleep. He stared at the photos on his desk. Sarah on their wedding day. Dylan as a baby. The 3 of them at Disneyland 2 months before the accident. His family. His whole world. Sarah would never forgive him for what he had almost allowed to happen. She would never forgive him for being so blind, so desperate, so stupid. But Sarah wasn't here anymore. And the only way Marcus could honor her memory was by protecting their son. Whatever it took. However far he had to go. He picked up his phone and dialed Robert's number. It's late, Robert said. What's wrong? I want you to find Monica Hartwell. I want you to bring her to me. A pause. Marcus, that's kidnapping. I don't care what it is. She knows everything. Victoria's past, the murders, the poison, everything. And she's going to tell me. And if she won't? Marcus's voice went cold. Then I'll make her. Another pause. Then Robert said, I'll have her by tomorrow night. Marcus hung up. He looked at the photo of Sarah one more time. I'm sorry, he whispered. I'm sorry I wasn't strong enough before, but I am now. He turned off the lamp and sat in the darkness, planning his next move. The war had officially begun. Robert Chen delivered on his promise at 6:15 p.m. the following evening. Monica Hartwell sat in a warehouse chair, her wrists bound with zip ties, her makeup smeared from crying. She had been taken from a parking garage in downtown Los Angeles, thrown into a van, and driven for what felt like hours. Now she was staring at Marcus Reynolds, and for the first time in her life, Monica understood what true fear felt like. Do you know who I am? Marcus asked quietly. Monica nodded. Her voice came out as a cracked whisper. You're Victoria's fiancé. Former fiancé. She tried to kill my son. I don't know anything about that. Marcus leaned forward. His eyes were cold, empty, the eyes of a man who had nothing left to lose. Let me tell you what I know, Monica. I know you supplied Victoria with the poison. I know you've helped her before. I know about Thomas Whitmore and Gregory Chase. I know what happened to them, and I know you were involved. Monica's face went white. That's not true. I don't know what you're talking about. I have records, phone calls, bank transfers, evidence that ties you directly to both deaths. Marcus paused. The police would be very interested in seeing what I've found. Monica's breathing quickened. You can't prove anything. Maybe not in court, but I can make your life very uncomfortable. I can make sure every employer, every landlord, every person you've ever met knows exactly what kind of monster you are. I can destroy you, Monica, completely and permanently. Tears streamed down Monica's face. What do you want? The truth. Everything Victoria has done, every crime she's committed, every person she's hurt, and I want you to testify against her in court. Monica shook her head frantically. I can't do that. She'll kill me. She's going to kill you anyway. Marcus stood up and walked closer. Victoria doesn't leave loose ends. You know that better than anyone. The moment she's free, the moment the attention dies down, she's going to come for you. because you're the only person who can connect her to her crimes." Monica was sobbing now. Her whole body shook. "But I can protect you," Marcus continued. "New identity, new city, enough money to start over somewhere far away. All you have to do is tell the truth." Monica looked up at him. "How do I know you won't just hand me over to the police anyway?" "You don't, but I'm offering you a chance to survive. Victoria won't give you that." A long silence filled the room. Monica stared at the floor, tears dripping onto her bound hands. Finally, she spoke. "Thomas Whitmore was first. Victoria was 23. She had been planning it for months." Marcus felt his stomach turn. "How did she do it?" "Digitalis. It's a heart medication. In high doses, it causes cardiac arrest. She put it in his coffee every morning for 6 weeks. By the time he died, there was so much in his system that the doctors just assumed it was a natural heart attack." "And Gregory Chase?" Monica's voice dropped to a whisper. "She tampered with his car. The brakes failed on the Pacific Coast Highway. He went over the cliff at 60 miles per hour." Marcus closed his eyes. He thought about Victoria sitting across from him at dinner, laughing at his jokes, touching his hand, kissing his cheek. He had slept next to a murderer. "Why?" he asked. "Why did she do it?" Monica laughed bitterly. "Money, power, control. Victoria grew up with nothing. She was poor, desperate, invisible. She swore she would never be invisible again. And she found out that the fastest way to get rich was to marry rich and then become a widow." "How many others?" Monica hesitated. Marcus grabbed her chin and forced her to look at him. "How many others, Monica?" "2 more, before Thomas, when she was still using her real name." "Who?" "Boyfriends. One in Detroit, one in Chicago. Both died of accidental overdoses. Both left her money in their wills." Marcus released her and stepped back. His mind was reeling. 4 murders, at least 4 murders, and Victoria had almost added Dylan to that list. "You're going to tell all of this to the police," Marcus said. "Every detail, every name, every date." Monica nodded weakly. And then you disappear. New name, new life. And you pray that Victoria never finds you." At 9:30 p.m., Detective Carter arrived at the warehouse. He looked at Monica, then at Marcus, then back at Monica. "I'm not going to ask how she got here," Carter said slowly. "That's probably wise." Carter pulled up a chair and sat across from Monica. "Ms. Hartwell, I understand you have information about Victoria Chase." Monica nodded. "I'll tell you everything, but I want protection, witness protection, a new identity." "That can be arranged, but first I need to hear what you know." Monica took a deep breath and began to talk. She talked for 3 hours straight. She described Victoria's first murder in Detroit. A boyfriend named Kevin, who had inherited $50,000 from his grandmother. Victoria had mixed fentanyl into his heroin supply. He overdosed 2 weeks later. She described the second murder in Chicago, a man named David who had a life insurance policy worth $200,000. Victoria had pushed him down a flight of stairs and called it an accident. She described Thomas Whitmore, the digitalis, the slow poisoning, the fake grief at the funeral. She described Gregory Chase, the brake lines, the cliff, the $12 million payout, and she described the plan for Dylan. Victoria called it the slow burn, Monica said. She was going to make Dylan sick gradually. Hospital visits, tests that showed nothing. Marcus would get tired, frustrated. He would start to see Dylan as a burden, and eventually Victoria would suggest sending him away. "And if that didn't work?" Carter asked. Monica looked down at her hands. Then she would increase the dose, make it look like the illness finally won. Marcus felt bile rising in his throat. "She was going to murder my son. She was going to inherit your fortune. Dylan was just in the way." Carter stood up. "I've heard enough. Ms. Hartwell, you're going to repeat all of this on record, and then we're going to arrest Victoria Chase for multiple counts of first-degree murder." At 11:45 p.m., police cars surrounded Victoria's penthouse. Victoria was in the bathroom when she heard the pounding on her door. She didn't panic. She had been expecting this moment for a long time. She calmly applied her lipstick, fixed her hair, checked her reflection. Then she walked to the door and opened it. "Victoria Chase." The officer's voice was hard. "Yes. You're under arrest for the murders of Thomas Whitmore, Gregory Chase, Kevin Miller, and David Hernandez. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law." Victoria held out her wrists. "May I get my jacket first? It's cold outside." The officer blinked. He had expected screaming, denial, maybe even violence. Not this. "Make it quick." Victoria walked to her closet and pulled out a cashmere coat. As she slipped it on, she glanced at her phone on the nightstand. One text message waited from an unknown number. "They got Monica," she talked. "I'm sorry." Victoria's face remained calm, but inside her mind was racing. Monica had betrayed her. After everything they had been through together. After all the secrets they shared. But Victoria was not finished yet. She had one more card to play. At 7:30 a.m. the next morning, Marcus received a phone call from an unknown number. "Hello?" "Marcus." Victoria's voice was calm and controlled. "I'm calling from jail. They gave me one phone call, and I chose you." Marcus's hand tightened around the phone. "What do you want?" "I want to make a deal." "You're insane. After everything you've done, you think I would make a deal with you?" "Hear me out." Monica talked. "I know that. She told you everything about Thomas and Gregory and the others. But there's something she didn't tell you. Something she doesn't even know." Marcus was silent. "I have evidence," Victoria continued. "Documentation, recordings, proof of every crime Monica has ever committed. If I go down, I'm taking her with me. And without Monica's testimony, your case falls apart." "The police have her confession." "A confession she gave under duress. Your investigator kidnapped her, Marcus. Any defense attorney worth their fee will get that thrown out. Without Monica on the stand, without her willing testimony, you have nothing." Marcus felt cold sweat forming on his forehead. "What do you want?" "I want the charges reduced. Attempted assault instead of murder. 5 years instead of life. And I want Monica to face charges for her role in everything." "That's never going to happen." "Then I guess we'll see each other in court. And I promise you, Marcus, by the time my lawyers are done, Dylan will be the one on trial. His emotional problems, his attachment issues, his history of making up stories to get attention." Marcus's blood boiled. "Don't you dare talk about my son." "He's going to testify, isn't he? A traumatized 7-year-old on the witness stand. My lawyers will eat him alive. They'll make him cry. They'll make him contradict himself. They'll make him look like a liar. You're a monster. I'm a survivor. There's a difference." Victoria paused. "Think about my offer, Marcus. You have until the preliminary hearing tomorrow. After that, all deals are off the table." The line went dead. Marcus sat in silence for a long moment. His hands were shaking. His heart was pounding. Then he picked up the phone and called Detective Carter. "We have a problem." At 10:15 a.m., Marcus met with Carter and the prosecutor, a sharp-eyed woman named Patricia Huang. "Victoria's playing hardball," Patricia said. "She knows Monica's testimony is crucial. Without it, our case is significantly weaker." "But Monica already confessed," Marcus said. "She told Carter everything." "And Victoria's defense will argue that confession was coerced. Your investigator took her against her will, held her in a warehouse, threatened her." Patricia shook her head. "A good defense attorney will get that thrown out." "So what do we do?" "We need Monica to testify voluntarily, on the stand, under oath, and she needs to do it without any appearance of coercion." Marcus ran his hand through his hair. Victoria threatened to release evidence against Monica. She said she'd take her down too. Patricia leaned back in her chair. That's actually useful. How? If Victoria has evidence against Monica, it means Monica has been holding back. She's not as innocent as she claims. We can use that. Offer Monica full immunity in exchange for complete cooperation. No hidden details, no protected secrets. Everything comes out. And if Monica refuses, then we charge her as an accessory to murder. She goes to prison for the rest of her life. Marcus thought about Monica, about the fear in her eyes when he confronted her, about the years she had spent helping Victoria destroy lives. She was not an innocent victim. She was a willing participant. Do it, Marcus said. Offer her immunity, and make sure she knows what happens if she says no. At 2:30 p.m., Monica Hartwell was presented with two options. Option 1, full immunity, complete testimony, a new identity, and enough money to start over. Option 2, charges as an accessory to 4 murders. Life in prison without parole. Monica stared at the documents for a long time. Her hands were shaking. Victoria will kill me, she whispered. If I testify, she'll find a way. Victoria is going to be in prison for the rest of her life, Patricia said. She won't be able to hurt anyone. You don't know her. You don't understand what she's capable of. Marcus leaned forward. I understand perfectly. She tried to murder my 7-year-old son. She poisoned his food and watched him have seizures on the floor. She told him his dead mother would be ashamed of him. She told him he should disappear. Monica flinched. Victoria is evil, Marcus continued. Pure evil. And you helped her. You helped her kill 4 people. You supplied the poison that almost killed my son. You don't get to play the victim here, Monica. You get to choose your own fate. Monica's eyes filled with tears. I never wanted any of this. I was just trying to survive. Then survive now. Testify. Tell the truth. And maybe, just maybe, you can live with yourself afterward. A long silence. Then Monica picked up the pen and signed the immunity agreement. At 4:45 p.m., Victoria Chase received word that Monica had agreed to testify. She was sitting in her cell when her lawyer delivered the news. For a moment, her face showed nothing. No anger, no fear, no surprise. Then she smiled. It doesn't matter, Victoria said calmly. Monica's testimony won't save them. Richard Brennan frowned. Victoria, this is serious. Monica knows everything. She can connect you to 4 murders. Monica knows what I wanted her to know. She doesn't know the whole truth. What do you mean? Victoria leaned forward. Her eyes glittered with something dangerous. I have insurance, Richard. Things I've kept hidden even from Monica. Things that will blow this case wide open. What kind of things? Victoria's smile widened. Marcus Reynolds isn't as clean as he pretends to be. I've been collecting information on him for months. Business deals that weren't quite legal. Bribes paid to government officials. A very interesting relationship with a certain female employee. Richard's eyes narrowed. Are you saying he's dirty? I'm saying everyone has secrets, and when those secrets come out, the jury will start to wonder. Who's really the villain here? The woman accused of crimes she can't remember committing, or the billionaire who kidnapped a witness and manipulated evidence. That's a dangerous game. I've been playing dangerous games my whole life. Victoria stood up and walked to the small window of her cell. Set up a meeting with the prosecutor. Tell her I want to make a statement. What kind of statement? Victoria turned back with a cold smile. The kind that changes everything. At 8:00 p.m., Maya Johnson sat in her apartment, staring at the wall. 2 police officers were stationed outside her door. Another was parked in a car across the street. She was surrounded by protection. But she had never felt more alone. Her phone buzzed. A text from a number she didn't recognize. You should have stayed silent. Now you'll pay." Maya's blood ran cold. She showed the message to one of the officers. "We'll trace it," he said. "Don't worry, we'll find out who sent this." But Maya wasn't reassured. Victoria was in jail. Monica was in protective custody. Who else wanted her dead? Her phone buzzed again. "I know where you live. I know where you work. I know where your mother is buried." Maya's hand started to shake. Another message. "You think the police can protect you? They can't even protect themselves." Maya dropped the phone like it was on fire. "Get Detective Carter on the line," she said. "Now." At 9:30 p.m., Carter arrived at Maya's apartment. He read through the messages, his face growing darker with each one. "These weren't sent by Victoria," he said slowly. "She's been in custody all day. No phone access." "Then who?" Carter looked up. "Someone on the outside. Someone working for her." "I thought Monica was her only accomplice." "So did we." Carter pulled out his phone and made a call. "Robert, I need you to run a trace on some threatening text messages. Someone is targeting our witness." Maya wrapped her arms around herself. "She has more people. Victoria has more people working for her." "It's possible. She's wealthy, connected. She could have hired someone before she was arrested." "So what do I do? How do I stay safe?" Carter put a hand on her shoulder. "We're going to move you to a safe house tonight. Different location, different officers. No one will know where you are." Maya nodded, but her eyes were hollow. "I just wanted to do the right thing. I just wanted to save that little boy." "You did save him, Maya. You saved his life, and because of you, Victoria is going to pay for everything she's done." "Is she? Because right now, it feels like she's still winning." Carter didn't have an answer for that. At 11:15 p.m., Marcus received another phone call. This time it was Patricia Huang. "Victoria made a statement," Patricia said. "She's claiming you committed fraud, bribery, and witness tampering." Marcus felt his stomach drop. "That's ridiculous." "Is it? She has documents, Marcus. Bank records, emails, communications with government officials." "Those are fake. She must have fabricated them." "Maybe. But they look authentic. And her lawyer is already talking to the media. By morning, your name will be all over the news." Marcus closed his eyes. He thought about Dylan sleeping peacefully upstairs. He thought about the life he had built, the reputation he had worked decades to establish. Victoria was going to destroy all of it. "What do we do?" he asked. "We get ahead of the story. We hold a press conference tomorrow morning. You deny everything. You present yourself as a grieving father who's being attacked by his son's attempted murderer. Will that work?" Patricia hesitated. "I don't know, but it's the only play we have." After she hung up, Marcus sat in the darkness for a long time. He had underestimated Victoria. Again. She wasn't just fighting to stay out of prison. She was fighting to destroy everyone who had crossed her, and she was winning. At 1:30 a.m., Dylan woke up screaming. Marcus raced to his son's room and found him sitting up in bed, tears streaming down his face, his small body shaking. "Daddy, Daddy, she was here. Victoria was here?" Marcus pulled Dylan into his arms and held him tight. "It was just a nightmare, buddy. Victoria's not here. She's in jail. She can't hurt you anymore." "But I saw her. She was standing by my bed. She was smiling at me." Marcus looked around the room, empty, silent. No one there. "It was just a bad dream, Dylan. I promise. You're safe." Dylan clung to his father, sobbing. "I don't want to go to sleep anymore. She's in my dreams. She's always in my dreams." Marcus felt his heart breaking. Victoria had done this. She had planted this fear in his son's mind, and even from behind bars, she was still hurting him. "I'll stay with you," Marcus whispered. "I'll stay right here all night. No one's going to hurt you. I won't let them." Dylan's sobs gradually quieted. His breathing slowed. Eventually, he fell back asleep in his father's arms. But Marcus stayed awake. He stared at the ceiling and thought about everything that had happened. The restaurant, the hospital, Monica's confession, Victoria's threats. This had to end. One way or another, this had to end. And Marcus knew exactly how he was going to finish it. At 6:00 a.m., Marcus made a phone call. "Robert, I need one more favor." "Name it." "I need you to find whoever is threatening Maya Johnson. I need to know who Victoria has working for her on the outside." "That could take time." "We don't have time. The trial starts in 3 days. If Maya doesn't testify, Victoria walks." A pause. "I'll have something for you by tonight." Marcus hung up and looked out the window at the rising sun. The final battle was coming, and he was going to win, no matter what it cost him. Robert Chen delivered the information at 8:45 p.m. that night. The person threatening Maya Johnson was a man named Victor Salazar, former military, dishonorable discharge, current occupation, whatever paid the most. Victoria had wired him $50,000 3 days before her arrest. "He's been following Maya for a week," Robert said, "watching her patterns, learning her routine. He was supposed to make it look like a robbery gone wrong." Marcus felt ice in his veins. "Where is he now?" "We picked him up an hour ago. He's in the same warehouse where we held Monica." "Did he talk?" "Not yet, but he will." Marcus grabbed his jacket. "Let's go." At 9:30 p.m., Marcus stood face to face with Victor Salazar. The man was built like a tank. Scars covered his knuckles. His eyes showed nothing but cold indifference. "I know what Victoria paid you," Marcus said. $50,000 to kill an innocent woman." Salazar shrugged. "Business is business." "I'll pay you double to testify against her." Salazar laughed. "You think money is my problem? Victoria has friends, dangerous friends. If I talk, I'm dead within a week. And if you don't talk, you're going to prison for the rest of your life. Conspiracy to commit murder, stalking, harassment. I have the text messages you sent Maya. I have the bank records showing Victoria's payment." "You're done, Salazar." The man's jaw tightened. "What do you want?" "The same thing I wanted from Monica. The truth. Everything Victoria told you. Everything she planned. And testimony at her trial." Salazar was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke. "She contacted me 2 weeks ago. Said she needed insurance. Said there was a waitress who might cause problems." "What kind of insurance?" "The permanent kind. But she wanted it clean. No connection back to her. Make it look random." "And you agreed?" "I agreed to take her money. Whether I actually did the job was another matter." Salazar leaned back. "I'm a lot of things, but I don't kill civilians, women, children. That's not my business." Marcus stared at him. "Then why did you threaten Maya? Why send those messages?" "To buy time. Victoria wanted proof that I was working on it. The messages were enough to keep her satisfied." "So you never intended to hurt Maya?" Salazar met his eyes. "I intended to take Victoria's money and disappear. But then your investigator found me." Marcus processed this information. Salazar was a criminal, but he wasn't a murderer. And his testimony could be the final nail in Victoria's coffin. "Here's the deal," Marcus said. "You testify against Victoria. You tell the jury everything she asked you to do. And in exchange, I make sure the charges against you are reduced." "Reduced to what?" "Harassment. Maybe some jail time. Probably probation." Salazar considered this. "And what about Victoria's friends, the dangerous ones you mentioned?" "I'll provide protection. New identity afterward. Same deal I gave Monica." Another long silence. Then Salazar nodded. "Fine. I'll testify. But if Victoria walks, if she gets out somehow, I'm gone. And I'm taking the money with me." "She won't walk," Marcus said. "I'll make sure of it." At 7:00 a.m. the next morning, the day of the trial arrived. Marcus dressed in his best suit. He kissed Dylan goodbye and promised to call during the lunch break. Then he drove to the courthouse with Robert Chen by his side. The media was already there. Cameras everywhere. Reporters shouting questions. Protesters holding signs. Some supported Victoria. Others condemned her. The case had become a national obsession. Marcus pushed through the crowd without speaking. He found Patricia Huang waiting in the hallway outside the courtroom. "Are we ready?" he asked. Patricia nodded. "Monica is prepped. Salazar is prepped. Maya is nervous but determined. We have everything we need." "What about Victoria's evidence against me? The fraud allegations?" "Her lawyer tried to introduce them this morning. The judge threw them out. No foundation, no authentication. She was bluffing." Marcus exhaled slowly. One less thing to worry about. "Let's finish this," he said. At 9:00 a.m. the trial began. Victoria Chase sat at the defense table in a simple white blouse looking like a grieving angel. Her lawyer had coached her well. Every gesture was calculated. Every expression was designed to evoke sympathy. But Marcus saw through her now. He saw the predator beneath the mask. The prosecutor's opening statement was devastating. Patricia laid out every crime Victoria had committed, every victim she had destroyed, every lie she had told. "This woman is not what she appears to be," Patricia said. "She is a calculated killer who targets wealthy men, earns their trust, and eliminates anyone who stands in her way, including a 7-year-old boy." Victoria's lawyer countered with claims of harassment conspiracy and reasonable doubt. He painted Victoria as a victim of circumstance, a woman who had been framed by jealous enemies. Marcus wanted to scream, but he stayed silent. The truth would speak for itself. At 10:30 a.m., Monica Hartwell took the stand. She looked smaller than Marcus remembered, fragile, broken. But when she began to speak, her voice was steady. "I've known Victoria for 20 years, Monica said. "I helped her with things I'm not proud of, things I'll regret for the rest of my life." "What kind of things?" Patricia asked. "Covering up murders, disposing of evidence, providing substances that could kill without leaving traces." The courtroom gasped. Victoria's face remained perfectly still. Monica described each murder in clinical detail. Thomas Whitmore and the digitalis in his coffee. Gregory Chase and the severed brake lines. Kevin Miller and the fentanyl overdose. David Hernandez and the fall down the stairs. "And what about Dylan Reynolds?" Patricia asked. Monica's voice cracked. "Victoria wanted to make him sick. Gradually. She said if Marcus saw his son as a burden, he would eventually send the boy away. And if that didn't work... Tears streamed down Monica's face. She would increase the dose until it looked like natural causes." Marcus felt his hands shaking. He gripped the edge of his seat to keep them still. Victoria's lawyer cross-examined Monica aggressively. He attacked her credibility, her history of fraud, her motives for testifying. "Isn't it true that you were offered immunity in exchange for this testimony?" "Yes," Monica admitted. "So you have every reason to lie, to say whatever the prosecution wants you to say." "I'm not lying. Everything I said is the truth." "But you're a convicted liar, Ms. Hartwell. Why should the jury believe you now?" Monica looked directly at Victoria for the first time. "Because I'm tired of carrying her secrets, because I've watched her destroy people for 20 years, and because there's a little boy who almost died because of her." Victoria's expression flickered, just for a moment. Then the mask returned. At 12:15 p.m., Victor Salazar took the stand. His testimony was shorter, but equally damaging. He described Victoria's phone call, her instructions, the $50,000 she had paid him. "She wanted me to kill Maya Johnson," Salazar said bluntly. "Make it look like a robbery. No witnesses." "Did you intend to carry out this assignment?" "No. I'm not a hitman." But Victoria didn't need to know that. "Why are you testifying today?" Salazar glanced at Marcus. "Because I've done a lot of bad things in my life, but helping a woman murder a kid isn't one of them. Victoria's lawyer tried to discredit Salazar's military record, his criminal history, his motivation, but the damage was done. At 2:00 p.m., Maya Johnson took the stand. She walked slowly to the witness box, her legs trembling. She sat down and looked out at the packed courtroom. Marcus gave her an encouraging nod. Maya took a deep breath and began. She described the night at the restaurant, the movement of Victoria's hand, the vial, the drops into Dylan's food, the moment of doubt when she almost stayed silent. "Why did you speak up?" Patricia asked. Maya's voice broke. "Because my mother spent her whole life staying silent. She watched rich people do terrible things and never said a word because she was afraid of losing her job. She died with so many regrets. And you didn't want to be like her. I promised myself I would never stay silent when someone was being hurt, especially a child." Victoria's lawyer attacked Maya's credibility, her limited view, her potential bias against wealthy guests. "You couldn't actually see what was in Ms. Chase's hand, could you?" "No," Maya admitted. "So you assumed. You guessed. And based on that guess, you destroyed an innocent woman's reputation." Maya's eyes flashed with anger. "I didn't guess. I saw her reach into her bag. I saw her hand hover over the plate. I saw Dylan collapse 4 minutes later. That's not assumption. That's evidence." "But you're not a trained observer. You're just a waitress." Maya stood her ground. "I'm a human being with eyes, and I saw what I saw." At 3:30 p.m., the prosecution called its final witness, Dylan Reynolds. Marcus's heart stopped. He hadn't known Patricia was going to do this. He hadn't agreed to it. He jumped to his feet. "Your Honor, I object. My son shouldn't have to testify. He's been through enough." The judge looked at him sympathetically. "Mr. Reynolds, the prosecution has the right to call witnesses, but I'll allow you to be present during his testimony." Marcus wanted to scream, but he had no choice. Dylan walked into the courtroom holding a social worker's hand. He looked impossibly small. His eyes scanned the room until they found his father. Marcus mouthed the words, "It's okay. I'm right here." Dylan nodded bravely and climbed into the witness chair. Patricia approached gently. "Dylan, I'm going to ask you some questions. You just need to tell the truth. Can you do that?" Dylan nodded. "Yes, ma'am." "Do you remember the night at the restaurant?" "Yes." "Can you tell us what happened?" Dylan looked at Victoria. For a moment, fear crossed his face. Then something else replaced it. Determination. "Victoria put something in my food. I saw her do it." The courtroom went silent. "You saw her." "I was adjusting my napkin. But I looked up. I saw her hand over my plate. I saw something fall from her fingers." "Why didn't you say anything?" Dylan's lip trembled. "Because I was scared. Victoria told me bad things would happen if I ever said anything against her. She told me she would make me disappear." Victoria's mask cracked, her face contorted with rage. "That's a lie. That child is making this up." The judge banged her gavel. "Ms. Chase, you will remain silent, or I will have you removed from this courtroom." Victoria's lawyer whispered urgently in her ear. She settled back in her chair, but her eyes burned with hatred. Dylan continued. "She told me my mommy would be ashamed of me. She told me I was too much for my daddy to handle. She told me I should go away so everyone would be happy." Marcus felt tears streaming down his face. He didn't try to hide them. Patricia knelt in front of Dylan. "Were you scared of Victoria?" Dylan nodded. "Every day. Even when she was nice to me, I was scared. Because I knew it wasn't real." "How did you know?" "Because when Daddy wasn't looking, her face changed. She looked at me like she hated me." The jury members were crying. Even the judge looked moved. Victoria's lawyer declined to cross-examine. What could he possibly say? Dylan climbed down from the witness stand and ran straight to his father. Marcus scooped him up and held him tight. "You were so brave," Marcus whispered. "I'm so proud of you." "Is it over, Daddy?" "Almost, buddy, almost." At 4:45 p.m. closing arguments began. Patricia summarized the evidence. 4 murders, 1 attempted murder, a hitman hired to eliminate a witness, a pattern of predatory behavior spanning 2 decades. "Victoria Chase is not a victim," Patricia said. "She is a monster who preys on vulnerable people. She has killed before. She will kill again. The only way to stop her is to ensure she never walks free again." Victoria's lawyer made a last-ditch attempt to create reasonable doubt, but his arguments fell flat. The evidence was overwhelming. The testimony was damning. At 5:30 p.m., the jury retired to deliberate. Marcus sat in the hallway with Dylan on his lap and Maya beside him. No one spoke. The tension was unbearable. At 7:15 p.m., the jury returned. Marcus's heart pounded as they filed back into the courtroom. He searched their faces for any indication of the verdict. The 4-person stood. "We, the jury in the case of People versus Victoria Chase, find the defendant guilty on all counts." The courtroom erupted. Victoria screamed. Her lawyer tried to calm her down. Reporters rushed for the exits to file their stories. Marcus closed his eyes and let out a breath he felt like he had been holding for weeks. It was over. Finally over. At 8:00 p.m., Victoria was led from the courtroom in handcuffs. As she passed Marcus, she stopped. The guards tried to move her forward, but she planted her feet. "This isn't over," she hissed. "You think you've won. You haven't won anything. I'll appeal. I'll get out. And when I do, I'm coming for you. For your son. For that waitress. For everyone." Marcus met her eyes without flinching. "No, Victoria. You're never coming back. You're going to spend the rest of your life in a cell, remembering everything you lost. And when you die, no one will mourn you. No one will remember you. You'll just be another monster who got what she deserved." Victoria's face twisted with rage. "I'll kill you. I'll kill all of you." The guards dragged her away. Her screams echoed through the hallway until a door slammed shut and silenced them. Marcus turned to find Maya standing behind him. Her eyes were filled with tears. "It's really over?" she asked. Marcus nodded. "It's really over." Maya let out a sob and covered her face with her hands. Marcus pulled her into a hug. "Thank you," he whispered. "Thank you for screaming. Thank you for being brave. Thank you for saving my son." Maya couldn't speak. She just held on tight. 3 months later, the world looked different. Victoria Chase was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. 4 counts of first-degree murder, 1 count of attempted murder, 1 count of conspiracy to commit murder. Monica Hartwell disappeared into witness protection. A new name, a new city, a new chance at life. She sent Marcus 1 letter thanking him for the opportunity to start over. He never heard from her again. Victor Salazar served 6 months for harassment and was released on probation. He moved to Arizona and opened a security consulting firm. Legitimate this time. Maya Johnson received a full scholarship to finish her degree in social work. Marcus funded it anonymously. She never found out where the money came from. At 6:00 p.m. on a Saturday evening, Marcus sat on his back porch watching Dylan play with their new golden retriever. The dog had been Dylan's idea. He said he needed something to protect him while he slept. Marcus had agreed immediately. Dylan was laughing, running, throwing the ball and cheering when the dog brought it back. He looked happy, genuinely happy. The nightmares still came sometimes. Dylan still woke up screaming 3 or 4 times a month, but the frequency was decreasing. The therapist said he was making excellent progress. Marcus's mother Eleanor walked onto the porch with 2 glasses of lemonade. "He looks like himself again," she said quietly. Marcus nodded. "He's getting there." Eleanor sat down beside him. "And what about you? How are you doing?" Marcus considered the question. "I'm angry at myself for being so blind, for letting her into our lives, for almost losing Dylan. You didn't almost lose him. You saved him. I didn't save him. Maya saved him. I just sat there checking my phone while my fiancé poisoned my son. Eleanor put her hand on Marcus's arm. Stop punishing yourself. You're a good father. You made a mistake. But you fixed it. Dylan still has nightmares. He still flinches sometimes when women he doesn't know get too close. He still asks me every night to check his closet for monsters. And you check it every night, don't you? Of course. Eleanor smiled. That's what good fathers do. They check for monsters. They stay awake when their children can't sleep. They hold them when they're scared. You're doing all of those things, Marcus. Marcus watched Dylan tackle the dog in a fit of giggles. I wish Sarah were here. So do I. But she's not. And Dylan needs you to be present. He needs you to be strong. He needs you to show him that even after terrible things happen, life goes on. Marcus nodded slowly. I'm trying. I know you are. Eleanor squeezed his arm. And that's enough. At 7:30 p.m., Maya Johnson arrived for dinner. She had become a regular presence in the Reynolds household over the past 3 months, not as an employee, not as an obligation, as a friend. Dylan ran to greet her, the dog bounding behind him. Maya, watch what I taught Buddy. Maya laughed and knelt down. Okay, show me. Dylan commanded the dog to sit, shake and roll over. The dog obeyed perfectly. That's amazing, Maya said. You're like a professional dog trainer. Dylan beamed with pride. Dad says I can teach him more tricks if I'm responsible. And are you being responsible? I feed him every day, and I take him for walks, and I clean up his poop even though it's gross. Maya laughed. That's very responsible. Marcus watched them from the porch. Something warm spread through his chest. He had lost so much. His wife, his trust, almost his son. But somehow out of all that darkness, something new was growing. Not romance. He wasn't ready for that. Neither was Maya. But friendship. Connection. The knowledge that there were still good people in the world who would risk everything to do the right thing. At 8:00 p.m., they sat around the dinner table together. Marcus said grace for the first time in years. He thanked God for Dylan's life, for Maya's courage, for second chances. Dylan talked about school, about his friends, about the art project he was working on for Mother's Day. What are you making? Maya asked. It's a secret, Dylan said seriously. But it's for Mommy. I'm going to put it on her grave. Marcus's throat tightened. That sounds beautiful, buddy. Dylan nodded. I want her to know I'm okay, that I'm not scared anymore. She knows, Marcus said. She's watching over you every day. How do you know? Because that's what mommies do, even when they're not here anymore. Dylan considered this. Then he smiled. Okay, I believe you. After dinner, Maya helped clean up while Dylan played in the living room. He's doing better, Maya said quietly. I can see it. Marcus nodded. The therapist says he's resilient. Kids bounce back faster than adults. What about you? Are you bouncing back? Marcus dried a plate slowly. I don't know if I'll ever fully bounce back, but I'm learning to live with what happened, learning to forgive myself. You shouldn't have to forgive yourself. You didn't do anything wrong. I brought her into our lives. I ignored the warning signs. I told Dylan his feelings didn't matter. Maya put down the dish she was washing. Marcus, you were grieving. You were lonely. You wanted to give Dylan a mother figure. Those aren't crimes. Those are human impulses. They almost got my son killed. But they didn't. Because I screamed. Because you believed me. Because we stopped her together. Marcus looked at Maya, at her kind eyes, her gentle strength, the quiet courage that had saved everything he loved. I still don't understand why you did it, he said. You could have lost your job, your reputation, everything. Maya smiled softly. Because when I was 10 years old, my mother was being hit by her boyfriend. I heard it through the walls. I wanted to scream for help, but I was too scared. The neighbors heard too. They all heard. And no one did anything. Her voice wavered. My mother stayed in that relationship for another 3 years. She finally got out, but she was never the same. And I promised myself that when I grew up, when I saw something wrong, I would never stay silent, no matter how scared I was. Marcus felt tears forming in his eyes. Maya. That's why I screamed Marcus. Not because I'm brave, but because I couldn't live with myself if I didn't. Marcus reached out and took her hand. You saved my son's life. You saved my life. I will spend the rest of my days trying to repay that debt. Maya shook her head. You don't owe me anything. Just be a good father. That's all I want. At 9:00 p.m., Dylan appeared in the kitchen doorway. Dad, can Maya read me a story tonight? Marcus looked at Maya. She smiled. I'd love to. They walked upstairs together. Dylan climbed into bed and pulled the covers up to his chin. The dog jumped up and curled at his feet. Maya sat on the edge of the bed and opened the book Dylan had chosen. Marcus stood in the doorway watching. This is what family looks like, he thought. Not perfect, not traditional, but real and honest and full of love. At 9:30 p.m., Dylan was asleep. Maya tiptoed out of the room. Marcus was waiting in the hallway. He's out, she whispered. Thank you, for reading to him, for being here. Maya smiled. Thank you for letting me be here. She turned to leave, then stopped. Marcus, yeah. For what it's worth, I think Sarah would be proud of you, of who you are, of how hard you're fighting for Dylan. Marcus felt his eyes burn. You didn't even know her. No, but I know her son, and he's an incredible kid. That doesn't happen by accident. She squeezed his hand once, then walked downstairs. Marcus stood alone in the hallway for a long moment. He looked at the photos on the wall. Sarah and Dylan at the beach. Sarah holding Dylan as a baby. The three of them at Christmas, 1 month before the accident. I'm trying, Marcus whispered to the photos. I'm trying so hard. And somewhere in the silence he could almost hear Sarah's voice. I know, and you're doing great. At 10:00 p.m., Marcus checked on Dylan one last time. The boy was sleeping peacefully. No nightmares tonight. The dog lifted his head briefly, then settled back down. Marcus bent down and kissed his son's forehead. I love you, buddy. Sweet dreams. He walked to the door, then turned back for one last look. Dylan was safe. He was loved. He was healing. And that was all that mattered. Because in the end, that was what being a father meant. Not being perfect. Not having all the answers. Not protecting your child from every danger. It meant staying. Fighting. Getting up every day and trying again no matter how many times you failed. It meant checking for monsters in the closet. It meant listening when your child was afraid. It meant believing them when they told you something was wrong. Marcus had learned those lessons the hardest way possible. But he had learned them, and he would never forget them again. Some stories end with fairy tale perfection, with every wound healed and every tear dried. This was not that kind of story. Dylan still had bad days. Marcus still carried guilt. Maya still sometimes woke up in the middle of the night hearing Victoria's threats echo in her mind. But they had survived. They had faced the darkness together, and they had won. Not because they were heroes. Not because they were perfect. Not because they never made mistakes. But because when the moment came when everything was on the line, they chose to speak up. They chose to fight back. They chose the truth over silence. And in a world full of people who look the other way, that choice made all the difference. Victoria Chase would spend the rest of her life in prison. Monica Hartwell would carry her guilt forever. But Dylan Reynolds would grow up safe and loved. And Maya Johnson would spend her career helping other survivors find their voice. Because that was the real lesson of this story. Not that monsters exist. Everyone knows that. But that ordinary people can stop them. All it takes is one voice, one scream, one moment of courage, and the truth will set everyone free.